Hello and welcome to a very special episode of the Wirex Podcast. I'm your host, Lianna, and today we're celebrating a huge milestone, Wirex's 10th anniversary. We're thrilled to be joined by the visionaries behind it all, our co-founders, Pavel, Matveev, and Dmitry Lazarichev. Over the past decade, Wirex has transformed from a bold concept into a leading force in the fintech and crypto space. Today, we'll dive into their journey, uncovering interesting behind-the-scenes facts, the challenges they've overcome, and some of the biggest successes they've celebrated along the way. To kick things off, we'll start with the origins of Wirex. So, looking back at Wirex's early days, what was your initial vision for the company?
Hello, everyone, and thank you for having me today. So, we came up with initial idea in December 2014. And so back in the days, it was only one cryptocurrency, Bitcoin. So nowadays, there are just thousands of them. But back in the days, we were thinking, okay, we have this Bitcoin, excellent blockchain, excellent technology. And how can we connect it to real world and maybe just add some kind of real like use case? And it's when we came up with the idea of a card. Our idea was, okay, Bitcoin is something on the internet, you can't really put it in your pocket, but if we add it with some kind of physical object, and we were going back and forth with gift cards or like a proper debit card from Visa, MasterCard, and we ended up with going with debit card. And the product was very, very simple. You had the Bitcoin wallet and you have a card, and the only thing you could do is just from Bitcoin transfer this Bitcoin to a card balance. And it's how we started. So from idea to MVP probably took us 4 months. So around December we finalized the idea, and in February we launched our first cards.
Wow, that's amazing. We've also heard many stories before of how companies are born at the back of a bar coaster or a napkin, right? So it's really interesting how you guys got together and came up with this solution. And Dimitri, do you want to add on to this, on your perspective?
Yeah, sure. Hi guys, it's great to be here. So I guess the idea was exactly as Pavel explained. So we started thinking about how we can basically find a way to make the digital assets a new emerging asset to be spendable and usable in everyday life. And that was our sort of approach to that. So instead of going to every merchant and say, okay guys, there is some assets on chain and you can start accepting your payments in Bitcoin and, other tokens. So we thought, okay, perhaps it makes sense to kind of integrate it into existing rails with Visa and MasterCard. And apparently that was a moment when basically we started really working on this. And that's actually how it all started.
So was it kind of like a eureka moment, a real aha, when both of you came up with that?
I would say yes, and but it was basically our feeling about that. We didn't know how the first users would feel about that, and so it was like a forum where we said, okay, guys, we've got a debit card and you can pay with your digital assets using this card. And so initial reaction was people said, no, it was impossible. It's completely impossible. It's one world with schemes with Visa and MasterCard and a completely different world of the digital assets and blockchain. And no one thought it was possible. But then we said, okay, if you can maybe order a card and try and make a deposit in Bitcoin and try how it works. And then a few people, they said, okay, we're going to try that. And they did, and it worked. And they said, wow, that's amazing. So that was probably the biggest moment when we realized, okay, that's definitely something interesting.
Yeah,
More than interesting. Yeah, go ahead, Pavel.
yeah, just to jump in with a couple of comments about this kind of, first cars or first users. Again, this the forum which was quite popular, Bitcoin, Bitcoin forum, Bitcoin Talks forum. So when we launched the idea, I think the first reaction from people was, okay, that's a scam. And it's, by the way, still kind of a very common reaction to something new happening in crypto space. So I think the first reaction, okay, it's not possible, it should be scams. And so we went through this wave of users who was accusing us and, scamming or scam projects. It's not possible. But it's quite funny that this exactly the same customers actually, after trying our product, they became the biggest, the largest advocates for us. Some of them are still using Wirex, by the way.
That's really amazing. And, it's so funny that you brought up like how the loudest voices, right, to say like, oh, it's a scam, ultimately, becomes your biggest supporters. And I think sometimes it's so true of like, other companies today as well, and so how close is today's Wirex to the original vision you had when starting out? Has the why shifted in any way at all throughout your journey?
I can start. So initial vision or initial the problem we were solving was very narrow, right? Basically, the initial idea was, okay, spend Bitcoin anywhere. That's kind of initial vision, and we kind of created a product for this relatively quickly. But what Wirex is right now is much bigger. So Wirex offer like challenger bank experience combined with cryptocurrency functionality, and it's fully features functionality. So you can receive, send, exchange, trade, do loans and other products. So we're still focusing a lot on crypto functionality, and we call ourselves crypto native, but also our banking functionality expanded a lot. So we're now offering kind of similar services to what other challenger banks are offering, like Monzo or N26 or Revolut. And in terms of geographical coverage as well, we started in the UK, but now we have customers almost everywhere. So yeah, I think it just to sum it up, the Wirex right now is much bigger, much broader in terms of a vision, in terms of functionality we're offering. But at the same time, this initial vision about bridging the gap between crypto and traditional finance is still there. I think it's still our core specialty and core expertise.
Yeah, I would agree on that one, 100%. So obviously we have evolved as a company, as a product, a lot over a decade, really. But the original vision is probably somewhat the same. So we still were thinking, how can we make the efficient sort of a bridge between the traditional and blockchain ecosystems? And we're still working on that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we're still building the plane while flying it, right? And I think, with this landscape, is an ever evolving landscape. And I think it's brilliant that, while the vision is still, the same, which is to be that bridge, right? You're able to also adapt and to really, have the finger on the pulse, so to speak, on what is going to be needed, So I think that's amazing. And as we know, like, in this journey, right, like there will be some success and some failures, but, what would you say has been the biggest unexpected success for Wirex so far?
Well, it's a good question. I would say more unexpected success stories or things were at the beginning of our journey. Again, when we launched the first product, there was no market for this type of product. So we were world first Bitcoin debit card back in the days. And the fact that we went through this scam accusation wave when we became successful, when we started getting traction, that we didn't expect. And I think the pace of the growth is something we didn't expect. And it was also aligned with crypto cycle. So it kind of, we're pushing adoption and pushing interest from end users. I think that's kind of probably, I would say, the biggest unexpected success. Later on in our journey, I think the bets we made in terms of the product development or features were more calculated.
Yeah, I would add the whole story was pretty much unexpected. So we were definitely thinking about, maybe it's going to be like the company and we will have like a certain number of customers. But from my perspective, at least at the, like at the very beginning, we didn't expect, for example, that we can get a license, financial license from the FCA. We can get a partnership with both Visa and MasterCard. That was pretty unexpected, although we basically hoped for that. And also in terms of the successes, I'd say we've been really lucky with the team. So we've got a great team, very intelligent and hardworking people. That also, I think, is a success to some extent. And the level of the sophistication of the product and the platform that we built, it's also kind of unexpected success to some extent, at least.
I actually just remembered another story about unexpected things and unexpected successes. So that's the story, not from our first year, but I think it was like second year. We were growing fast. It still was kind of early days in Wirex, and the processes were not very. The product was very basic, but was growing fine. Because it was self-funded business, we were always very tight when it comes to decision how we want to spend cash, like, what direction we want to take the product and features. And at some point we received an invitation from fintech summit in Japan, and they were inviting international startups to participate in startup competition. So it's called FinSum. It was the first fintech summit in Tokyo. And they were like, hey, please come to Tokyo, pitch your startup, and you have a chance to win whatever was the prize. And I remember we were discussing with Dmitry, it's like, okay, we're based in London, and that's actually quite a long, expensive trip to Tokyo, and we're not quite sure, like, what's the point to go that far? And we declined. We said, okay, you know what, we're not going. And organizers then came back and said, okay, you know what, we'll pay for flights, we pay for hotel, and please come. They were very interested because it was first FinSum in Tokyo. The organizers were very interested in attracting international startups. And when we got this message, we were like, okay, fine, let's go. And there was probably, 50 different startups, UK, Europe, American startups. And there was 2 rounds of competition. So there was a big audience. It was one of kind of the first, not the public speaking experiences, but a pitching competition for us. So we were very, very nervous. And look, long story short, we won the competition. So we were number 1 crypto startup from London who won the first place in Tokyo on FinSum. And it's when we became quite popular in Japan. We got also the investment from Japanese venture capital, and we were featured in all Japanese media, like UK media and other media as well. So it was very interesting experience, and it was unexpected success story for us.
Wow, that is such an amazing story. I mean, and talk about treat them mean to keep them keen, right? Like, oh no, you playing a bit hard to get, but then they pursued you and you went. Oh wow, that is actually an amazing story. And that was what, year 2 of Wirex?
Probably year 2. Vinti, do you remember?
Yeah. I think it was in 2016. Yeah, I think it's year 2. I remember a long flight. Yeah, and the jet lag there. That was astonishing. Yeah, no, that's definitely one of the best stories for sure.
That's amazing. And 10 years, right? So I'm pretty sure there are more stories like that. But which product idea sounded the wildest when it was first pitched, but ended up working brilliantly? You think, in your opinion, over the years?
Yeah. So we in Wirex we're quite mature company. So we tried a lot of product and features. Some of them worked, some of them didn't. I do remember that people were talking about, hey, it's all good that Wirex is cool because so your solution card and you can do whatever you want with crypto and use it in everyday life. But can you actually do the same but on chain? And back in the days, we were like, okay, the infrastructure level is not there. So we were very, very skeptical, and we saw different companies trying to do debit cards on chain, non-custodial debit cards, and we were very skeptical. And most of these companies actually were not successful at the end. But as blockchain infrastructure developed, we reached the level of infrastructure, and there are different blockchain infrastructure. And this is, by the way, blockchain infrastructure means it can mean anything. But what I'm talking about fast, scalable blockchains. So right now there are a lot of fast scalable blockchains, and there is Optimism stack, there is ZK stack, and this sort of things. But what I'm trying to say, this idea of non-custodial debit cards, initially we were very, very skeptical about it, and we parked it for a couple of years. But this actually ended up being the core value proposition for our new products called Wirex Pay. Wirex Pay, it's actually non-custodial card and payment infrastructure. We launched about a month ago. Again, for Wirex, it's infrastructure play. So we offer this payment and card infrastructure for other companies like non-custodial wallets, dApps, even fintechs to build on top of that. So yeah, non-custodial debit cards, very skeptical initially, but ended up being one of the main value propositions for our new product.
Yeah, it's a very recent story. So basically that's the latest product. But before that, and we could actually call it the 3rd generation of crypto debit card. And before that, so when we started with the 1st generation, it was a very simple product. So you send us a Bitcoin, then you exchange it into fiat, and you load these funds onto the cards, and then you spend these funds. That was the 1st generation. And the second one was when you used to make a deposit, and then you link your wallet to a debit card. And so basically you spend your digital assets without doing the exchange. So we have removed one step. That was the 2nd generation that's currently available on Wirex app. And now, what I'll explain is the 3rd generation, when you don't need even do a deposit. You can just have a debit card or non-custodial wallet that you operate with. So that's basically, that was the ideas that we didn't believe maybe in the very beginning, but ended up that they were working really well.
And being like the foundation as well, right? To Wirex. It kind of just reminds me a little bit of what Gmail is to Google, because I think well, maybe not so similar, but kind of similar. In terms of not knowing that it would work brilliantly. And I just wanted to ask, what's the most unusual place where a Wirex meeting has taken place?
That's a pinch.
And I feel like that's gonna be a good story.
Yeah. So from my perspective, I'd say usually do the meetings in the offices and maybe in a restaurant or a dinner. But in terms of very unusual places, the one comes to my mind is, remember again, we many years ago had a trip to Seoul, to Korea, and we arranged this series of meetings with different people. A couple of them were quite interesting. So first one was, it was like a local exchange for digital assets. And when we came to their office, the office was in the same kind of space as the video gaming, like a club. So that was a bit interesting. So because we were talking to them, sitting at the table, and around us, other people were playing the video games. And the next one was, it was in the market, and there was a small shop in the market, and on the first floor they had a very regular brick and mortar shop with all the goods that they were selling. And on the second floor where we had a meeting, there was a blockchain foundation in Korea or something like that, or one of them at least. So that was a bit unusual, I guess.
Yeah. Since we're talking about the Seoul and Korea, I do think that because countries like Japan and Korea, they're quite far for us. It's probably the most kind of unusual destination when we're having different meetings. And by the way, South Korea and Japan was back in the days the leading countries in terms of the volume and crypto interest. And since we're talking about the South Korea and Seoul, I do have a story. It's not getting a bit sidetracked from the question, but anyway, since it's 10-year anniversary podcast. So we had unusual meeting with, so we don't speak Korean. So we arrived to Seoul, and there was 2 consultants who were helping us. So it was European-looking consultants who spoke English and spoke Korean. And back in the days, there was the largest crypto exchange in the world, and it was based in South Korea. Wouldn't say the full name, but the name starts with B. And we came for a meeting with them. So it was more business development, partnership meetings. And we were very, very, very interested in our technology. And they invited us to discuss how we can partner with us. So there was a meeting, just imagine a long table, meeting table. And on one side, there is, representative of Korea Exchange. On the other side, there are 4 of us. So myself, Dmitry, and 2 consultants. European-looking consultants. That's important. I'll explain why. And we speak English, and they speak English, and we speak Korean. And basically, a meeting started. We're discussing different things. We're discussing technical details of how our card working, how we can use it in Korea, these sorts of things. And at some point, these guys, they switched to Korean. And we switched to Korean, and they kind of started discussing something between them. Later on, we were explained that, it's quite common in Korean business culture, but then it was a bit unexpected. But the story is the following. So the guys started talking Korean. We don't understand. And we were, patiently waiting. And we look at our consultants, and they kind of, the faces changed a bit. And we were okay, fine. And the consultants, all the way, they spoke only English. So the guys didn't know that they actually can speak Korean. Again, long story short, meeting ended. Everyone was shaking hands and everyone was happy. And at the end of the meeting, actually after the meeting, we talked to our consultants and we were like, what happened? Like, why your expression changed. And our team said that, okay, the guys actually during the meeting, they started discussing in Korean, how can they copy what we've built? So that's kind of the story. So during the meeting, the guys started talking in Korean, how they can copy Wirex to launch in Korea. So that's the entire story. We obviously we didn't do any partnership with this exchange, but that's a bit unexpected meeting. It's not unexpected place, but unexpected meeting.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. But, and I'm sure these things happen as well, right? And people trying to copy, and wow, that's wild. I mean, the audacity of them. And, and just, circling back to the origins of Wirex, right? Like, who came up with the name Wirex first, and why Wirex?
Collective effort, right, Xing?
Yeah, it was. So we were sitting and chatting about the name, and we all started thinking, okay, what can represent the idea behind it? And because we were talking about the digital assets, and the difference, I guess, is that you can exchange it with into fiat, and you can also transfer it. So basically, you can buy and you can exchange it, and that's how we came up with that.
Actually, that is really brilliant.
Yeah.
Until you mention it, and now it's like, okay, it's so clear. Of course.
Yeah. That was an interesting story. It took us a bit of time, but now then we decided, okay, yeah, it sounds really good. Let's do it.
That's amazing. And if Wirex could instantly solve one of today's challenges in fintech, what would it be?
Yeah, from my perspective, I think one of the biggest challenge for the fintechs, and especially those who are focusing on blockchain, is the global reach. And so far, we've seen just a limited number of companies that can go to different countries and get the licenses. So that's definitely something preventing the fintechs, to go fully global. And that's a limitation of the market. If we could solve it in some way, that'd be great, I guess. And one of the ways how we're thinking about that right now is that with Wirex Pay Chain as an infrastructure layer, maybe we can basically invite the fintechs from different countries to connect to it. And so then all the customers can get access to the product that we are building. And also we would allow other companies to build products based on our infrastructure.
I would agree that kind of interconnectivity between different fintech ecosystem is kind of one of the main issues. So we have, let's say, Cash App in the United States, you have Revolut in Europe, you have Alipay in Asia, GrabPay in Southeast Asia, and the payments and the flows are working fine within ecosystem, but the traditional fintech ecosystem, they are not interconnected. So you can't easily go from the Grab to Revolut and to Cash App. And what blockchain can solve, because blockchain by design is actually interconnected. So you have this common layer where people can exchange value, can exchange messages, can exchange whatever they want to exchange. But that's actually one of the kind of long-term vision for us, that blockchain can solve this issue, this fragmentation of liquidity, fragmentation of fintech infrastructure.
I just love the two different perspectives, but working symbiotically as well, right? And I think that is also the strength of Wirex, having the both of you, with the vision. So this leads me to to ask, in what way do you feel Wirex is leading the industry today?
That's a good question. So I think the innovation and launching the new things was always part of Wirex DNA. And during our history, we launched a lot of world first things, which never happened before, were never done before. And I think we just following with this vibe and keep innovating. So our innovation are more about again is bridging the gap between traditional and then blockchain worlds. But yeah, that's probably it's what we're known for, and it's where we lead in the crypto industry.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's the main sort of a focus for us as a company. So we are trying to build the best and the most seamless sort of a bridge between traditional currencies and fiat and blockchain assets. And that's definitely, still the main topic for us all the time. And that's what we're known for, like Pavel mentioned. So basically, we keep working on that to improve interconnection between traditional and blockchain world.
Yeah, because there's no one size fits all approach, right? And I love the fact that it started off with being that bridge between traditional and blockchain, and it is still the same now, but it just looks different, or maybe it addresses a different issue, right, in the landscape. So yeah, definitely, I totally agree. That is, Wirex is leading the industry today by bridging the gap. So let's go with a couple of fun questions now. If Wirex had a spirit animal, what would it be and why?
I don't know much about spiritual animals, but I would say it's a horse because it's strong, it's reliable, and it's hardworking. Yeah.
Okay. I have two British short hair cats, so I'll go with a cat. British short hair cat. They're smart and cute.
I love it. Well, one is like the horse and the cat. I think that's a really cool image as well, actually. Right. So what's one app you can't live without?
It's Wirex app, of course. What else it can be? All right. Yeah, definitely. We are heavy users, so we use them on a daily basis. But also on top of that, from my perspective, it's the messengers. I can't imagine the life without them these days. So the messages and video conferencing apps, yeah, from my perspective, those are the main ones these days.
And for me, so I can't actually live without TikTok. So I'm TikTok addict. I use it for getting news and use it for educational content and entertainment as well. It's quite funny. TikTok, for me personally, replaced all our social networks.
That's amazing. And, it also just reminds me about like the evolution of technology, how we, back in the day, we didn't have handphones, right? We had to use payphones, and now we've got everything in one smartphone. That's wild.
Yeah, indeed.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about the team and who is the fastest typist among the team.
No, it's definitely Pavel. That's easy. Sometimes he manages to type at the same time in different channels. So yeah, there's no competition on the one.
Yeah, but the problem of typing too fast is that autocorrect function is not, it can't correct my typing in time.
Describe Wirex's future in 3 words.
I'd say it's fast-paced, innovative, and cool.
And for me, innovative, global, third one is difficult, and successful.
What's next for Wirex in the next 5 years? Anything big that we should be excited about? Anything that you can kind of like, leak out? Give us the elephant.
I think we've talked a little bit about the Wirex pay chain. So that's definitely like a big achievement for us, and I guess for the whole industry as well, because that's a completely new concept available with a modern level of blockchains. But in terms of what we will be focusing on over the next years, definitely on geographical expansion, as that's important with like more and more users from different countries to be able to use Wirex in daily life. And also, we keep working on the non-custody sort of solutions there, because again, we feel it's going to be like a game changer in the future. And additionally to that, we are thinking about B2B, because over the years, we built a lot of infrastructure for ourselves. And now I think it's a good time for us to try and make it available to other businesses.
And I think that Wirex Pay and then non-custodial card or payment infrastructure is something we will be focusing on going forward. And so maybe just to expand on this a bit, so we see that actually entire crypto industry going on chain one way or another. The kind of traditional custodian players launching their own chains, like Coinbase is a good example, or Kraken, or Wirex. A lot of companies launching non-custodial wallets. I see a lot of trading activities moving on chain. So that's a big trend. Might be not that visible from outside of the crypto, but in crypto, there's a huge trend right now. So everything moving on chain and self-custody. And I think this self-custody, no counterparty risk, and everything on chain and in a transparent way is a kind of a big trend for next 3, 4, 5 years. And so that's why we're kind of baking on this trend with Wirex Pay infrastructure.
I'm really looking forward to that trajectory, and just seeing, you go from strength to strength. If you could give advice to the 2014 version of yourselves, what would it be?
Good question. I would say maybe it would be better to kind of understand a little bit earlier, and in 2014 maybe specifically, that it was going to be like a marathon rather than a sprint. So it's something to keep in mind when we are making decisions and, assessing different options and situations in general from that perspective, rather than just a short term. I think that could potentially be helpful, I guess. And also, I think the other thing that comes to mind is, with any startup, any new company, it's unavoidable to have ups and downs. And downs also, it's an unavoidable thing. And it's better to look at this from more like a philosophical sort of a perspective, and also think how we can learn from that, how we can improve ourselves and keep working on ourselves and on the product, on the company. So, that's how I should.
It's a good question indeed. I was thinking about advice that don't do it, stuff like that, because it's not easy. But I think Dmitry mentioned very interesting things with ups and downs, which I do agree with. When you kind of, especially when you're first time entrepreneur and you don't have this kind of the previous experience of being an entrepreneur or launching your own company, having your own business, having your own startup and company and idea, periods of ups and downs, and nobody tells you before you start, but it's something you need to keep in mind. And how good you can navigate through its ups and downs will define how successful you are and how successful your business is. That's probably one of advices I would give myself in 2014.
Yeah, but then look at where you are now, right? 10 years, and that, comes with a lot of experience and these advice both of you are giving to your 2014 version selves. It still rings true today, to so many other founders or people who are, wanting to start a company, right? And I really love the fact that you brought up, it's there will be ups and downs, and because life happens, and it's how you get yourself back up, right? So yeah, that was really inspiring. Thank you for that. Yeah, and that brings us to the end of our special anniversary episode. Pavel, Dmitry, thank you so much for sharing not only the incredible milestones, but also those fascinating and funny behind the scenes moments that help shape Wirex. It's inspiring to see how a bold idea a decade ago has grown into a company that's pushing boundaries in the payment space. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
As we look ahead, there's no doubt that Wirex has big things on the horizon, and we can't wait to see what the next 10 years will bring. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in to this celebratory episode. If you enjoyed today's conversation, don't forget to subscribe, share, and join us for more episodes exploring the future of crypto and beyond. This is your host, Lianna, signing off. And here's to Wirex and the exciting chapter ahead.